being 7:01, I'm gonna bring the Dunbarton Board of Selectmen meeting to order. And let me see where I got my cover sheet. Right here. And the meeting date is January 14th, 2021. All three selectmen are present. Town administrator is present. Cemetery trustee is present. Transfer station department head is present, Lee Bone, and Leo Martell is present and taping the meeting for the benefit of the public. And Linda Nickerson will download that. Okay, we have some old business with the regular meeting minutes from January 7th.
Motion to approve the minutes of the January 7th meeting as amended.
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the non-public minutes of January 7th as written.
And I'll second that.
motion been made and seconded, and just to note, the time was 8:55 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
And these ones will be sealed afterwards. Okay. I'm gonna go out of order just a little bit from what we have on here, only because, a lot of this is budget, 2021 budget information that's gonna be, revised from what we had in previous meetings. We have a couple of people here to meet us tonight, so I'll try and take care of them first. So, taking it out of order, why don't we bring, Woody, are you all ready to come up?
Sure.
All right, we'll take Patrick Bone first, which is, transfer station department head. And that's this package here with the commercial haulers, I think.
American copies here for you.
Okay.
Okay, so
Just a quick side note, did you get your containers ordered up that we approved?
Yes, they're not being delivered for a little while.
That's all right.
Till spring, but yes. They don't have them in stock anyways. So, what I just handed you gentlemen is the paperwork that we have currently with regards to commercial haulers. The first copy being hours and days that they're allowed to come in, which needs to be modified a little bit. Nothing major, just changing, basically removing Saturday, the other 2 days I don't really have a problem with, and changing the hours on Wednesday. The reason I'm bringing this to you is because there's a possibility of another hauler coming to town. And our documentation, looking at it, is kinda, some of it's good, but some of it's not so good. Some things like our fee that we charge, frankly, isn't enough to cover what it costs just for the town administrator to send out the bill for them to pay that fee. It's a $25 a year fee. It used to be $500, and then several years back, it got changed.
Okay, so just for the public, Woody, when I was looking at this originally, I was thinking commercial haulers, like when you hauled stuff down to this.
No, this is for commercial trash haulers
That are coming into our facility from around town.
from our town, correct.
Okay,
Personally, on the fee part of it, I even, at this point, don't think 500's enough, and I'll just give you a little background why. When we have a commercial hauler come in, which, you know, they have a dedicated day, I pretty much have to dedicate one person to being right there when they're there, spot checking their loads. Sometimes there's 2 of us spot checking their loads, and, you know, that's kinda ties up one guy for a long time there. You know, and I get it, they're there working anyways, but that's kinda the big thing. And then if they dump recycling, you know, we kinda gotta watch their recycling, we gotta deal with their recycling, and that's the other thing. I don't know how we wanna handle it, how we wanna handle having this new setup with the haulers, cause we have one, but he hasn't been coming in because of COVID. The board had said no hauler. And that's the other thing we have to figure out is you still wanna stay on that same plane right now, of no haulers until this COVID subsides a little bit. If that's the case, then this stuff here, we can put off and, you know, do a little bit later. If not, it's something that we kinda need to start to act on now.
I think with the height of the cases out there still, we should hold off. It's my own personal thought of having the commercial haulers come in.
You know, on a Saturday, I agree with him, you know, Saturday, someone comes in and they gotta empty the trash, then all our residents are just waiting there to dump stuff, and it's one line there. I said, doesn't really bode well for our residents.
Right, typically the commercial hauler comes in, his dedicated day for trash only is Tuesday. That's the only day they can bring trash in.
Yeah, but still, it ties up the one lane.
Right, on that, well, they come in and they've gotta go into the cover. They gotta have to go into the building to the overhead door. That's where they go, which leaves that right-hand lane open.
Are they coming in now?
No.
Okay.
No, the one hauler that we had, as of last year, has not been coming in. Because of COVID, I don't know as if he's even doing his recycling. Most of the time when I see him around town, he's just loading everything into a packer truck.
Okay.
And he has his own facility over in Ware. I don't know what he does with it after that, but we haven't seen him, since the, you know, town told him, he can't come in right now.
I've seen a couple of new cans around town
Yeah. There's others, but they don't come to our facility.
to dump.
Right.
Cause I've seen a couple brand new cans around town, the ones like Goffstown uses and
Yep.
Bow uses to dump, but I don't know who's doing that, but they're right up the road from us.
Yeah, they go over here every day at the apartment building.
Yeah, that would be, I think that one's Pernard that comes over,
Yeah.
and then the people that have commercial dumpsters at their house.
Yeah.
But what this all refers to is the hauler who's gonna pick up trash in town and then bring it to our facility. Because the town does not allow any hauler to dump at our destination under the town's name.
Right.
It's never been allowed, and I
And
don't
where does
foresee
it,
it happening.
it doesn't show here anywhere, but that's our, we charge them $500 one time a year.
We used to, it's $25 right now. I think that's one of the things,
25,
it's $25. Years ago, it got negotiated down
from 500 to
to $525.
25.
And like I said, the
Wow.
town administrator has a bunch of time involved in just writing the documents and the bills to send them, and then
Okay.
she sends me the
I
documents.
thought the 25 was above and beyond the
No,
500 for
no,
the administrative.
no.
No, I think he's bringing this to your attention right now, because you said someone's approached you about possibly
Yes, yes.
starting.
You know, every year we hear the horror story, and I think it's, and really spot on, things aren't going lower, every year is going up. And not to charge a little bit more fee, a significantly higher fee, is wrong. I agree with,
Just remember one thing, everything we do bring up, it does get transferred right to our town's residents, because that fee will be divided out amongst their routes, so we
Right,
wanna be somewhat careful of that as well.
Right,
because-
you know, I think, you know, I talked to some other towns, and, you know, everybody is all over the place. I talked to one town that, the way their policy is written up is that, you know, if you are caught bringing trash in from another town, right off the bat, it's a $3,500 fine. No
And you guys
question
did
asked.
catch people bringing trash.
We catch people, and typically, the way we have done it, since I've been there, we give you a warning the first time, hey, you can't dump that here, you can't bring that trash in here. Second time, you boot them out. You know, they're in the business to make money, so they're gonna try stuff. Most of them, I will say, the last haulers, that we've had, the last two have been pretty good, you know, we've checked their loads and haven't found anything. So that does, you know, they're not all bad, but you do get some bad eggs once in a while.
And you don't think 500's enough, would you, if it was?
No, you know, we charge 500 probably, it's gotta be 10 years ago anyways, I'm thinking.
And it's been 25 ever
It's
since.
been 25 for quite
Yeah,
a
I think
while.
it was the haulers that approached the selectmen, said that they weren't making enough money.
I think I know
Yeah.
when that was.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago, I mean, I could be off on 10 years, I probably am, but it was a while ago, I just think, just looking at, you know, what the town administrator has to do, and then pass paperwork off to me, and then my guys dedicating them to do $500, you know, they're coming in every week, so that's 52 weeks, if you look at it that way, it's still only $10 a week at 500, I think, it's less than $10 a week. You know, they should be, I'm thinking, you know, I thought about 1,500, but 1,000 is kind of the middle of the road, it's a little bit up, but it's not too steep. You know, obviously, it's the board's decision, like I said,
Can you do something for our board? Kinda like we do with everything else,
Yep.
could you call our surrounding towns or
Yep.
similar sized towns
Absolutely.
and see what their fees are, and then we can make a little bit more educated guess at it?
Yeah,
That
Hey,
sounds
that'd be a
good.
good idea.
I would think with, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, with this type of situation, I don't think you wanna go to towns that are the same size as you, I think you wanna do your surrounding towns.
Okay,
Because if your fee to come in here is less than a fee to go someplace else, that's gonna entice them, entice them to wanna come here. So I think you need
but
to
don't
be in
they
the
have
same,
to take trash from our town?
what's that?
Doesn't the trash have to come for our town
Yes.
for a commercial haul?
Yes, it does.
So,
But it might entice them to try and sneak it in. You know what I'm saying? You wanna play fair across the board, you know, keep it all in the
can't
same.
sneak them in any lower than $25. If they haven't stuck in here now, we're not gonna get up and
It
sneak
sounds
in
like we're
out.
paying them to come.
Yeah,
So, okay, so I'll contact them and say, look, the things are on the back burner for now. You know, once COVID, we're gonna we're revisiting our policy. I'll
but you
explain
could,
to them.
you could get that, mounts to us within the next week or two, and then we can make a decision on it, so then you can notify them,
Yep.
we're not open now, but when we do open, this will be our fee structure.
Okay, we can do that.
I'd like to get the fee
Yeah.
structure down ahead of
Yeah.
time if we could.
I'll have to get it up.
Yeah,
And the other thing I just wanted to touch on real quickly, just have a couple of quick updates. You've probably seen some checks coming in, things are moving, prices are creeping up a little bit, but don't be fooled by it. I think it's, gonna be short-lived. Tobacco, just to give you a quick update on that, tobacco's working out really good. We've gone, we did a.
Eddie using the back.
Yeah, we used, we hauled one load of steel so far with it, and it wasn't compacted all the way from the bottom up, it was only about halfway, and I more than doubled my weights in it, so I'm up to, the last load I hauled was about 15,000 pounds in it, so, as opposed to where we were running at, 6,000 to 7,000 pounds, so it's paying off, so. It's kinda if you, you know, we're getting ready to ship some more loads, markets are changing, things are changing, everything's changing, so just, you know, when you work on your revenue stuff for my department, I would err on, like I tell you every year, err on the side of caution. Things look good now, but I don't know what the future's gonna be.
We reduced his line.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, I didn't know, I just,
Based upon what your experience this year, we've not known where we're gonna go.
I would rather,
Be conservative.
I'd rather have, you know, have it down here and bring you a ton of money and be better than have it up here and bring you no money, so.
Right.
But you gotta get some money so we can get a shelter for you.
There you go. Other than that, things is going pretty good. The Mac, everybody knows had a pretty major breakdown, hydraulic wise. Truck couldn't be,
I thought the price on that was a fairly reasonable repair
Yes.
for being out where you had to deal with it.
yes, he had, I think he was well over 6 hours into repairing that truck, plus travel time and.
That was a reasonable bill, I think that could have been much larger.
So, I'd been asked several times, well, why didn't you have the truck towed? Just so it's on public record, the truck couldn't be towed. The hoist was up in the air, the container was halfway off the truck. When it blows the hydraulic lines, you can't put the hoist down, you can't do anything, the truck is stuck. So, that's why we didn't have it towed, or we would've had it towed back here, just, you couldn't move it. You could start it, but you can't move it.
Well, actually, the amount of that bill was probably gonna be the towing fee.
Yeah, oh, it'd be all of that,
Yeah.
So,
so.
it was a good thing to get it done.
Yeah.
And I spoke to a mechanic about it, and we fixed a couple others while we were right there. When he comes in to do the service in the spring, we're gonna go through and check them again, go through and check all the other lines, make sure things are good, so, 'cause that's our lifeline, so.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have, if you guys have anything? Okay.
Keep doing the good work you're doing.
That's it.
Oh, one other thing, we talked last week at our meeting about a single lane and putting the cones back up.
Yes, we started that.
Okay,
And basically what we've done, and I think the email address I sent to you, I think is a wrong address. I don't know if you guys got that email or not.
I didn't get
No.
one.
Okay, I did it from my house and it must have been an old email I had. So I sent an email out, 'cause I was sick Thursday. Basically what we've done, we've closed that lane Tuesday and Wednesday. And Saturday, it's closed until we get over 6 cars backed up. Because what's gonna happen if we shut that down one, we're gonna be right back out into 77 and
I'd say,
an issue. And the reason it all come about is someone came and complained to me and they were pretty irate. So I brought it and actually I thought, like I said, I thought you guys.
I got a call on it.
Yeah, the person told me that, so it's not the answer they were looking for, but it's a solution, a temporary solution, you know. We're doing the best we can, keep everybody happy, keep everybody moving. So it is what it is, so.
Okay.
All right.
Good, thank you. All right, the next one, we're going out of order here a little bit. Don will bring you up.
You might wanna grab that, warrant out of the mailbox, that's primarily most of the
Oh, this is
discussion.
the commercial haulers, let me get rid of that. Just look in here. Right here. Don, you're in for a final review of your warrants, I think, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
We've all read them and signed off on them, that we've read them and looked at them this week. If you'd like to review your dollar amounts.
Well, let's just take the first one, the road, is $6,600, and that's, warrant number 13. Number 14 is the Cremains Garden, and our discussion last week, really helped improve the situation. We were initially going for all 7,
Yeah.
and that was 11,500. Then I thought, well, we'll just take 4 of them, and then I got to looking, and these 3 here are right by a turnaround, and then the other plots are on the other side. So when we do phase 2, that way they're all together, and there's no need to do the end ones until need demands it. So that's what I'm doing there. I got the bid in and everything.
So what do you do, the first, the middle 3 first?
Yeah, well, it's the end here,
Yeah, the bigger ones.
there's 75 total lots here, and there's 80 in these 4.
Okay.
So I was able to really get the price down,
Yep,
and, we're paying about 50% of it from, other than the maintenance fund.
yep. So you see where he's developed and changed his money around, so it makes it much
what was the
better.
final, what was the number I did on that?
It was 8,500 in total, but he's only using 4228 from the cemetery trust maintenance fund.
Actually, it's, 4260, or 4228, and that, because, I only need $8,500.
Right, so that's what I just said, so you're only using
So
4228.
I'm already saving 60
And
bucks.
he was using 11,500 looking at it the other way, so that's a substantial change there.
Yeah.
I'm good with that, Don, that sounds good so far.
Alrighty, and, then the tree removal, money will be spent on the trees for East Cemetery, Center Cemetery, and then, the ones that are not on the land trust. I think that, somewhere down the road, that we need to send a registered letter to the Forest Trust to make them aware if we don't get satisfaction between now and spring.
Okay.
And have to remove the trees on their property at their expense, not ours.
There are a few trees, instead of designating which ones you're gonna use, cause there are a few trees on this cemetery up here that you can take that are our responsibility,
Right.
like that big one, so. You've got Center Cemetery and East Cemetery. I think, oh, you do have Page's Corner, okay, you
Yeah.
have all 3 on there.
Yeah. And I did stop, Aspen, been cutting trees along the freeway, and there's a manager around here to see if they'll take that one out by there. I said, it's marked, so they were gonna check it out. So,
Okay.
the one that's on 13, so.
Do you guys have any questions for Don now that he's in it and adjusted these? We asked him to put the tree one in, He does have 3 warrant articles now, he's reduced the amounts on these substantially, so. He did what I think we
No,
asked him to do.
It was a good productive discussion last week.
Okay, Don, I think we're all on the same page now,
Okay.
appreciate all your work and, revising those, and I think Lean has her information she needs.
Yep.
Okay, thank you much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Linda's here as part of the budget review, and we were gonna review all department budgets here. Do you wanna hop around and try and do Linda's department while she's here? We've got our town clerk. Lean, where would I go for that, right in
It's on the
this?
very first page of this,
Okay, this one that we got here?
it's at the bottom section. There were no changes, other than, Linda and I agreed to merge 2 account numbers into one,
Yeah,
because it's the state dog licensing fees, and it's just a separate billing for a check, right? So it made it easier for accounting, so the only big change was that I put in the notes, Dave, you asked me to put in 15,000, mention that to the board.
yeah,
Did a quick calculation, because you guys approved, the step 2 increase as of January 1st. So those are quick summary, her rate times 12 hours times 52 comes to that dollar amount, which leaves a balance of 4163 divided by the 14 by the rate, gives you 244 hours. She has technically 4 weeks of vacation, so the balance for Mendo's is 84.3, which is an extra almost 2 hours a week.
okay. I see a weekly average 1.6, yep.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that breakdown, that helps us out there.
I don't know if Linda had anything extra to add, or.
I have something to add. It came to my attention this morning that one of our state representatives may have resigned, and that may require a special election this spring.
Whoops.
And I wanna make sure you budget it, maybe we follow up on that, we may
Thank
have to
you.
budget a special election.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Thank you. I will come up with some figures, just tentative figures. It'll be minimal staffing.
Correct, but it's an election, and
But
the
it is an
election
election,
is one of those
and- right.
outliers.
Thank you.
Okay.
That just came to light this morning.
Okay.
Well, that's good, so we'll put that in if need be into that budget, so.
I think she has to, right? Otherwise, we won't have enough money,
Correct.
so.
Everything else on the, budget was right what she proposed, so I think we're good.
Yeah,
I did want to thank the board for approving the deputy being moved up, moving her step up early, and it was a nice compromise from what I had proposed, so thank you so much.
Okay, we appreciate that, thank you, Linda, thanks for bringing it up to us.
Well, did you have any other questions about?
I
My
don't
budget.
think so, you guys have any questions for Linda on her budget? I think it's pretty straightforward this year.
Just with that one exception, just came to light this morning.
Yeah,
Which rep? Did you get a name yet, or?
Yes, it's the new one. Samantha Fox.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
no, and we're gonna be going down through the rest of all of these budgets tonight, trying to make sure they're ironed out, but I appreciate you coming in and going over yours with us.
Linda, if you had to make a ballpark figure, just so we can have a placeholder, how much would you add? I won't hold you to it, but I
No,
just
no,
want to put a
that's okay.
placeholder.
Actually, if you look at what I had budgeted for elections, I budgeted for 1 election this coming year. Maybe not quite double.
What is that number, do you see it on?
Bottom of page 1.
there's just the 2520 that she had for one election.
Yep, 20, it was 2520 plus 400 for meals.
450
But we're-
meals, yeah.
Smaller,
It'll be
1,500?
smaller.
1,500, would you say?
Well, the
Between the
meals will be the same. We're not getting smaller meals.
A lot of the, if I had my breakdown with me on the elections,
Figured the biggest guy should say that, right?
Somebody had to say
we
it.
still have to, we don't have to put up nearly as many voting booths, but we do still have to, I mean, have Woody come and set up, and there's a
So-
minimum number of hours, and
I
that's
would
a
say
chunk of,
2,000 then, another 2,000 would be safe,
we can ballpark it at 2,000,
just as a placeholder. Dave, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so add 2,000, and that will cover the extra cost for the meals and setup and admin, right?
Should,
It
yes.
should. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, 'cause I think we had some small ones budgeted around 1,500 in prior years.
Right, and remember, I also budget for ballot counters too, and most of them donate their time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
that would make up the difference. Thank you.
well, that sounds good, thank you for coming in.
My pleasure.
Mark, do you have anything for the board while you're here?
No,
You're welcome to stay for the rest of these budgets there.
alright, I just gotta step out for a minute, I'll be back.
Hey, Mark, I do wanna say one thing, I think is, I shared with the town clerk earlier, but I think is, you've done a great job over several elections, you've done a great job helping out with the county. I thank you. You know, you can tell the experienced counters from the inexperienced ones. I salute the inexperienced ones, but it's nice to have some experienced people, so I thank you.
Linda makes them practice at home.
I know, yep. It's a grueling week leading up to that.
That's nothing, Mike, you should see him with a horse.
I was just gonna say, it's been hanging around your horse too long, this is how he practices.
Good count.
All right, that
Thank
sounds
you.
good.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Okay. I guess this is the administrative budget we have in front of us,
Yep,
so if you want, Lean,
I'll pass it back to you as I,
go down through.
yep, and so I'll just speak for the first section. Executive, Board of Selectmen, that it shows, represents a 1% increase. Town administrators, 1% increase, but with an additional pay period. Secretary Town Office, I calculated, the current staff, one of which works 25 hours a week. And then the second, individual, 36 weeks. At this point, we may have to, advertise for that position to be filled. I do have a temporary, person that's been averaging about 9 hours a week. And for the period between, advertising for the position is an additional 17 weeks, so that along with, reconciling services, working with the accountant, comes to the 58,854.
Oh, okay, I see it there now, yep.
Recording secretary, I have it budgeted for, 48 weeks. That's, brings you to 5,232. If you choose to go the summer schedule, we could subtract 12 weeks or 1308, it's up to you. I know we do call for additional meetings from time to time, but that's a 12-week adjustment would be,
Do you wanna, instead of doing the full 12 weeks, do you wanna round it down to like 4,000? We had budgeted 5180 last time, and we did 3647 of it.
I think
Yeah.
4,000 would be,
you wanna do
Spot on.
4?
I think let's do 4, that'll give us a few extra meetings.
All right. We've already reviewed the town clerk's budget. And to the next. Financial administration, the audit, we had at the end of our 3-year contract. I increased it slightly, anticipating a slight increase, I've not heard back from them. Maybe something I have to put out to bid, so it's on page 2, right towards the middle, financial
Yep.
administration, audit services, I've increased that to 15.
Okay.
Tax collector, that's a 1% increase.
All right,
Deputy tax collector, I rounded it, just above what was expended for the prior year. Treasurer was approved by the board to be rounded to the 8,000.
Lean, one more time, the audit went from 13 to 15, why was that again?
Because we're at the end of our 3-year contract,
Okay,
and I anticipated going up.
gotcha.
If I happen to get that number before, it may be something I have to put out to bid, because I
Understood.
just haven't heard from them.
Okay, great, thank you.
But I will reduce it if I get that contract, you'll see that.
Okay, thanks.
Dues is general, we kept it, just slightly up, we have, an extra dues, the cemetery trustees is added to that, so there's a slight increase of $40 for for over last year, $28.72. Advertising town office, I left the same. References for books, I left the same. Postage, I've increased. We moved the planning and zoning postage at a prior, meeting discussion, which was $850 into this line, because she found that it wasn't being posted to her accounts through the accounting department, so it's just easier if she uses the meter, the stamps, just to merge it to my
So
account.
you pulled it from the other one, okay.
Correct, and I deleted it from her line, so then $850 moved to this line. And then I also increased the postage for clerk's office by $500, only because last year we were fortunate enough to get that grant.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be some increase in cost if we have to do absentee ballots of any sort. So, rounded it up to 7,000. And then the postage machine increase is gonna go up a penny, so based on the 14,000 plus stamps that we've issued in this last year, we're gonna see a slight increase of a couple $100.
Lean, does the actual, this year represent all the ZBA and planning board postage in there?
Yep.
So you've gone up from 553 to 77,000. That's a lot, don't you think? Because you already have it in there.
Correct. I'm wondering, I think that some of the COVID money or the CARES Act might have offset Linda's expenses.
But it wouldn't offset it
It
on,
did.
okay, would it, in the budget, I see what you're saying, okay.
I know that there were some of those charges during COVID or
Right.
the grant that were charged to, a grant line, not, an
Oh,
expense line.
Charge to, okay, understood, okay.
And I know that the one election that I had, counted, it was over $700. But because it's probably not gonna be as busy, Linda says she doesn't expect a whole lot of unanticipated, absentee ballots, but I just wanted to increase it slightly. I mean, we can reduce it, but I would,
Yeah, could do that.
do you want, what was that?
Or you're just making a joke.
You think that that's too high? Cause I don't think it's too high.
No, I'm gonna leave it there, that's good, I trust your judgment there.
Office equipment and repair, I left it, at the 2,500, we did have a few, machines, that I'm gonna need to replace. The tax collector's printer that no longer works. My printer in my office, I'm gonna be purchasing it through the warrant article that we have, because it's, more expensive, it's about $3,000. And that's what the article is used for, it's non-lapsing. Computer support, I did it very,
To simplify, I'm just saying 3,000 is not that much, I say take it out of the warrant, just put it on a budget line. Dave, what do you think about that?
On the maintenance agreement?
No,
no, it would be the, copier maintenance agreement, yes, that's correct. One of those two lines, either the office equipment and repair, or, no, it would be the office equipment and repair. So
right,
right now I have to buy a $750 copier for the town clerk, for the
Right.
tax collector.
right,
And then my, copier, which is a freestanding similar to this.
When she
smaller.
says warrant, like she was talking about a previous warrant.
It's a, yeah, we
Oh,
have a
okay, okay. No, I'm
non-lapsing,
sorry, I'm sorry.
Brand new.
funding that's already
All right.
earmarked for that, so,
She's already talked to
I
me, she
stand
set
corrected.
that aside for
I
it.
stand corrected.
okay?
You
So
good?
I'm not doing this year's warrant, it's already, I'm gonna be using a prior,
Otherwise, I
Gotcha.
would be in agreement with you.
yeah.
It's like the bridge fund.
Yeah, exactly.
So the description kind of drops down below the header. It's for IT support, being aside tax, accounts payable, payroll, clerk works, Microsoft licenses. We've added 2 computers, fire department and cemetery laptop, Zoom, Adobe, asset manager, other miscellaneous software, E-Reg, cartographics, Win2, PDF. So there's quite a few, a lot of smaller charges, but they all add up,
To the 31,000.
to the 3118.
And that includes our new, web support as well?
That one falls under, I think it's another account. Oh, it's on, two accounts down. You have medical services, town office, that stays the same at 1,000. The fees and services, town office, website support, $2,000. And then 3 months of the old, web support master. And then within that line, there's also charges for NSF bank charges, Merrimack County fees. so that comes to $2,500. So I was able to reduce it from the $87.50 down to 25.
How did you do that?
So last year I had 7,000 there, I moved it from the payroll into that fees and services, because I was doing the
Okay,
website update, but that's a one-time charge that was done.
but where is our, we just signed up for a new website for the town.
It was in this line last year, so it was
Okay.
$87.50,
Yeah,
now I've reduced it to 2,500,
okay,
okay?
I didn't think we were gonna be able to reduce that, well, that's good.
Yeah, no, I looked at it in detail and,
It's initial workup cost a lot.
Right,
correct, yep.
and that
Um,
2,500 will cover all of that,
Yep, it should, yep.
okay?
Printing town office, for town, report, ballot printing, post office mailing permit, I increased it slightly to 5,200. I do have a contract with, the printing company, and I do recoup some of the costs from the school side. And if there's any other vendors that decide they wanna put a page in there, then there's a little extra 200 or 300 that they can offset my cost, but I have to budget it.
Could you, just as a, rather than invite, you invite people in, but remember, you have to have so many pages, you limited as far as the size of it.
Oh, absolutely, can't go over a certain weight or else
Right.
they're out, they're the
So-
first ones off the list.
Thank you, okay, you're spot on.
Yeah, because the postmaster won't deliver it, it falls into a different category
Gotcha,
for mailing.
you understand that, Dave?
Linda asked for, same amount for her, record preservations.
You know, at some point, that amount has gotta go up in this town so that they can do a proper job organizing the records that they need.
I think the problem is there's not enough manpower to do
I
it.
know,
She doesn't have enough time, and even with her assistant,
COVID.
no, I'm just thinking with her deputy, some year we're gonna have to give her deputy more hours to do more of that, record preservation, so that it's
One-time
organized.
expense to
Yeah.
get it done.
I think sometime we're gonna have to look at that, I know we've been kinda pushing it down the bucket, but
That's the computerization or digitization of the.
we should
records.
think about that seriously this year and try and put it in our budget next year to have something set up for that.
maybe she can do some, get some quotes of what it would cost. Cause are we looking at the bind and books itself? Each
Well,
book?
I'm thinking, you know, a lot of stuff that they have there, it's, just been sitting there, cause they haven't had the manpower, like you said, time to put it in the binders and books so it's organized.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll look at that and ask Linda, maybe set some.
As a one-time yearly expense.
Yeah.
She has a whole year to spend the money to do it.
Maybe it's, partly maybe it's more hours for Hope, if Hope
I
has
was gonna
additional
say,
hours.
you give her a few more hours a
Right.
week to do that, where
So I put the
she's
money here,
focused on
so
it.
it's earmarked for
That's what I was
that.
thinking, because it really is record preservation, and we stick it in her line budget, then we'll always be looking at it, but it really is part of the town's
I would
responsibility.
know, but I agree with you, defer it for one more year.
Yes.
But at end of this year, looking at it more seriously.
So 40 hours at her rate of pay right now would be $682, so that's something,
we're not looking to go 40 hours a week, which,
no, just in general, if you did
She was
2
saying
hours a
spending
week.
40 hours on
Right.
it,
Over the year.
one week's worth of.
right,
But I don't know if you guys, you'll have to think about how many hours they
Yeah.
would like, or she should come to the board and say, we
With-
need a
with a
minimum
plan.
of 3 hours to get anything really,
I was gonna say,
any
yeah,
progress,
40 hours
or-
isn't gonna get much done in
no,
a
it might
year.
be an 8-hour day or something,
You know.
yeah. Yeah.
Dedicated 8
Yeah,
hours
I'm
every
thinking,
week.
yeah, every week for a year's time, and then we'll, but that's something we gotta think about, cause we kinda push it down the road every year, and we, you know, the records are just sitting.
Well, at the same time, should be able to cull through
Right,
stuff that doesn't have to be there.
You're talking about less than $9,000 a year.
right.
That's reasonable. For the following year.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, if she comes up with a plan.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll ask her to come up with a plan, Lee, and
Yeah.
then we'll go.
Yeah.
Leo, you
Yeah,
have
that's
something?
what I was gonna say, a lot of that, Linda has to be involved in it,
That's right,
and that's the thing, you'd have to get her here to figure out what she can do, you know?
right, and then she
Before-
could oversee her deputy, I know she's got her working on a project now.
Yeah, but you see, the deputy could actually run the town office.
Oh,
And then Linda can
yeah,
do
and
the-
I understand, that's why I said Linda would have to be involved
Yeah.
in whatever you guys are coming up with for a plan,
Right.
you know? That's
No, I'm
all.
just saying,
Yeah.
every year we leave that low, and
Yeah.
I know there's work to be done there, every year we just kinda
Yeah,
Blow it
Yeah.
off.
push
So
it
if
aside.
you
you know.
increase Hope's hours, you know, so that Linda could actually do that work, and Hope could be doing the work is the deputy town clerk.
Exactly.
Do you think we should put any more in the budget this year to start our process?
No, because what we're doing is making a plan for her, she's gotta come to us with a plan.
All right. I'm just gonna put a note on next year. Yeah, a day a week or something like that.
Yes, but let her figure out how she wants to manage it. We could, micromanage her is not really fair to her.
Nope.
Okay, next line is telephone, town offices, currently the local phone is 3608, GSI internet is 756. Pioneer has been going up slightly, 360, as a long distance carrier, and for a total of 4724, I rounded it to the 4500. Supplies, town office, town clerk's, E-Reg. She has a toner that's quite expensive, but it's a better price to go with the high yield, so we have to buy 2 of these a year at $530. We have to buy deposit slips regularly, envelopes, supplies, dog tags, and miscellaneous. So I left that at the 5,500, same as last year. Going below the header, training town offices, I reduced that slightly to 1,000. I know some of it was because, training was scheduled and canceled because of COVID. I don't know where we're gonna go with that, but that's to offer training for any department, like Rainey's already signed up for moderator training, comes out of this line. Cemetery trustees, the same, anybody that's new in their position, would, their training would come out of here. Education, all departments, I've reduced it from prior year. We have one employee that has a commitment for a degree that is still going through that process. The other employee, I'm not sure if we're gonna have time to pursue anything in the near future, so we've reduced that to 3,000.
Is that training above there, does that include the police department training? No. That's in their
Education,
own
all
budget.
what's that?
The training,
Yep,
does that include police department training, or is that?
no, they have their own,
Okay.
yep, that, I take care of all the, elected officials that
Yep.
don't have a budget. Educational departments, that was the one I just mentioned about the one employee is committed.
Mhm.
Next department, assessing, the board had reviewed their request. They reduced, their, let's see, increased their appraisal services slightly to cover abatement period after a reval. And then the increase was the computer support through Vision. That's a, annual contract. So there's a slight increase there, 29,834 from 27,174. Legal, I plugged in the same as prior year. I discussed the planning and zoning with, the town, the administrator in that department. She says that there's one, planning board case before the board that they're concerned will go, will probably be needing some legal, interpretation, so we left it the same. Board of Assessors, she had presented her budget at the time, and she thought it would be okay to reduce that to 10,000. And then I did increase the selectmen's budget from 20 to 25.
The 10,000, Board of Assessors, does that include money towards the,
The utility appraiser, when he
yes.
has to go to DTLA, that's
Right.
where that money comes from.
okay, thank you.
So that actually, the legal line is a flat budget from last year. Any questions, recommendations, changes?
No, I think that's good, Lean.
Okay, personnel, I crunched all my numbers today. First line, social security had a slight increase, I budgeted 42,785, that's to reflect the extra pay period and the 1%. Medicare, that has a less than $500 increase, budgeting 14,886. Retirement had an increase,
What do you have, old person going into the retirement system, is that why I wanna?
no, there's a new rate change from July 1st to, December. And it's, I wanna say it's a 4% increase for employees, and it's like 12% for the police department, so it jumps up substantially in the police department.
Well, that's
State,
quite an increase, huh?
state reaching down to the local
Yeah.
community.
Yeah,
I can't believe that's quite a jump in 1 year.
I can show you the spreadsheet after if you'd like.
It's like
From-
6 or 7%, yeah.
Unemployment is flat, that is through Primex. Workers' compensation, the 2021 was actually, but 24,819, but the board decided to apply the holiday credit of 3742, so that reduced our liability for 2021 to 21,077. Next line is vacation longevity, you can see there's the initials of the breakdown. And that increases slightly because we have 2 new individuals on that longevity period, so it brings it up to 7,200. Winter maintenance on call, I left it the same, I didn't know if the board wanted to revisit that.
I think that's fine. You
Highway.
guys think that's okay?
Yeah, that's easy.
Like you said, if the department head comes to us and asks us for an increase, then we would consider it, but they seem okay with it, so we'll leave it.
Health insurance, I crunched my numbers, I double checked them, and, I'm budgeting it slightly less than last year. And as you can see, there's actually less spent. So it's a slight increase because there was an increase on health, but there was,
Was that more reflective of the type of plan being chosen by the employee?
yes, yep, and this would be the 2 plans that were offered,
Right.
so that is accurate for 2021. Dental insurance was no change. Disability insurance, there was an increase through Primex, so that is budgeted there through contractual. And that's the end of administration for personnel. Planning and zoning, we've already reviewed based on the administrator's presentation. Again, the $850 that was originally in this budget was moved over my lines. That's why it looks like there's a decrease there. Town general government buildings, I plugged in that same number we were working with last year. You can see that we did do, put a good dent on what we weren't originally supposed to be spending it on, but there were things that had to be repaired or fixed or.
Which Linda gave us that update there a week or so ago that showed everything broken down.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I said Linda, I meant Linda.
Okay, understood. Admin general government building, that's our mower. He's no longer, he's up for a renewal. I don't know if you feel that that's too low for a professional to do the work that he's been doing, but we will have to put that out to bid. So I just rounded it up to 5,000, which is only $100.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You don't need that like that, okay. Gasoline and diesel are just placeholders. The accounting department processes the invoices through that account. I have to do a journal entry from the departments to replenish.
Are these external to our pumps?
Yes, yep, exactly, yep. Electric town office. So the Granite State solar payments, 12 months divided by all the departments. You're looking at $19.56 per department. Overage and delivery charges came in at $16.99 for the town, so I've just rounded it up to $3,700. Electric town hall, same thing, GSS, splitting that $8.15 monthly charge by the different departments or buildings, comes to $19.56. Overage and delivery charges came to $6.81. I left it the same as what we spent. Electric for police and fire, for some reason they are really low, but I believe when we first started getting our credits, most of them were given to, because the bill was not consolidated, it kept going to the building, police department, so it looks like they've gotten less, but I'm sure that that's barely gonna cover what their true expenses are for this coming year. Transfer station, I rounded it up from usage, again, all these the next two buildings, the state transfer station and highway garage, we take that 815 divided by the 5 buildings. You have a 1956 annual cost that goes towards the solar project, and then anything over and above will get delivery plus overage. And I think it's unfortunate, it's when you have just even a little bit of overage, you get a fairly substantial delivery charge. That's where it's really hurting us, so it'd be nice when we own those outright.
I am going to, sit down and go over those with you, Lean, to make them part of our town report.
Okay,
So I'll review those and we'll try and go through that, get that squared away.
okay. On to heating oil, the expenses you see there, I think, we had a mild year, for November, October, November, December. And now we're just starting to ramp up our heating, period, but I reduced I left the heat at the town office the same. Heating oil highway, I left it the same. Heating town hall, the same, and then oil police, so basically they're all flat. I think the prices for fuel are starting to jump up, if I'm hearing things.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well.
Yeah. Janitor, I left the same, we did expend some, we have a new individual not putting in as many hours yet. And the pay rate's a little lighter, so I think that will cover that salary just fine. Heating, maintenance, repairs, we typically do our annual cleaning out of that, we must have missed our annual cleaning for 2020, so we'll try to get that scheduled sooner than later. Cemetery budgets, you guys reviewed, it was a flat budget, we discussed that with the cemetery trustee. Insurance at the very bottom of the page, property liability insurance, that's through Primex, that had a slight increase, $31,379. Other insurance, that's our deductible, we budget $1,000 in that line. Police department was presented by the police department, if you wanna go over that, or you want me to just run through and you can go back and pick and choose.
Let's go through the police department one, cause I think these guys had some
Yeah,
keynotes they wanted to.
one of them's sticking right out at me, so go
Okay,
ahead.
so I'll let you take that, Dave.
Okay. We'll go down through, they've got,
The full-time line is, your full-time employee
yeah,
payroll,
yeah, and that'll show the increase that we gave,
the 1%,
the
yeah.
1%.
Yep.
And then we've got full-time overtime on there, the next line down,
That's based on their calculations.
yeah. And that looks like they were over on their budget last year, and they kept it the same as their previous budget, so I'm okay with that line. And holiday pay, just has that, 1% increase in there. Part-time, it looks like they had kept it the same as their previous budget, and they were over on the part-time. Now we're looking at detective work, police department. And that detective line, they had budgeted $48,293, and they only used $11,992 of it, and they're keeping it the same in their budget. I wasn't here for this, but it was noted that they were gonna try and hire somebody.
Actually, what they're gonna do is, I guess he wants to get train another full-timer, because he'll be out of the picture the following year,
Yeah,
and that would be a person to fill his spot. So he wanted to keep that as a placeholder, but I think if we left it at 20,000 instead of 48,000, cause the person's not going for training till August. So you're gonna have plenty of money to cover that, you know, seems like an awful lot of fat in one spot.
it might be fat, but, was he trying to keep it so as years were more level, instead of, dipping down, way down this year, and then having the majority of it on the following year be much higher? Is that-
No.
I wasn't here for the
No,
meeting,
no.
so.
The thing is, it was more, I think it's an oversight by the chief. The thing is, first of all, we're not gonna hire a detective, we're looking for a patrolman, and so that's gonna be a lower pay rate. and it's gonna be for chief's replacement, and we're talking about a half a year pay at most.
You're looking at August, September, October, November, December.
And he's gonna have
So
to
you're
hire,
half a year as a part-timer, Mike?
no, half a year as a full-time patrolman, not a detective.
But there are other costs with that.
Yeah.
There's the New Hampshire retirement, there's the health benefit, so I don't know if he was planning on where that other cost typically comes out of my budget lines.
Right, so,
It would be, you know, if you're gonna do something, shift it to one other line, rather than, because it would be difficult to track.
Well, let's put a note there, and let's go down through the rest of it and
Yeah.
see, and then we'll come back to that one after we've done the rest of them.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna put a highlight by that, and we'll go down through. I just wanna make sure if we do a half a year, that we cover his cost for all of those expenses that are
oh, I
included
agree.
with that officer.
If you'd like, I can do that, I can take the rate times 40 hours, times so many weeks. Just let me know when you want that to start.
Right, and that would get shifted from his budget to your budget,
It
right?
would have to be,
Okay, so why don't you just, you wanna do the math out quick while we go down through the rest of this
no,
thing?
I will do it and I'll give it to you next week.
Oh, okay.
Because you just have to let me know, are we looking at September first, August first, October first?
Well, the thing is, he's gonna wanna advertise early, so the thing is, let's say he brings him on, let's compromise, let's say he advertises in June, bring him on in July, he goes to on for 4 weeks, a couple weeks here, then he goes to school in August. I'd say we start July, but not sooner than July.
But you're still only half a year.
We're correct.
Right.
So, why don't we just make our calculations for a half a year?
Half a year at patrolman, step one.
Okay,
And then include all the benefits and stuff that come with that,
okay,
and then,
okay. I'll do
Bobby,
that.
does that make sense?
Yep,
And that would be full-time with benefits.
Yes.
because once he leaves, we won't be replacing another full-timer.
correct.
We wanna make sure
You
he's,
won't be replacing,
we wanna make sure he's aware of that, because we have talked about it before, and it's like, no, we want another
No.
full-timer afterwards, and
no,
that's not.
he indicated this was gonna be a full-timer as his replacement when he's gone.
Yeah,
And of course, you're gonna have an adjustment in all of those numbers
right, when you
going
move the
forward,
people
you
around,
know?
right. Okay, okay, supplies stayed the same, training stayed the same. So I'll try and just go over any differences I see. It looks like prosecution fees went up slightly. But we're talking less than a couple $100, so. And, computer hardware stayed the same as their previous budget. Gasoline stayed the same. Their dispatch services out of Goffstown went up slightly, so you're looking at additional less than $1,000 there.
Right, he indicated that.
Yeah. Computer software stayed the same as his previous budget at 1,700. Network hosting was 4,400, and that stayed the same. Looks like IMC contract police, went up slightly to 6,800 versus 65, so $325 increase there. His telephone services are at 7,600. That stayed flat. Vehicle maintenance, 7,500. They had a much higher vehicle maintenance this year in his budget because they had an older car they had to put some work into.
They're asking for new cars, as I recall.
Yep. And, that stayed at 7,500. Department equipment stayed at 5,300. Fees and services stayed at 5,000. And a lot of these were higher in his budget this year, but, they were able to be absorbed by him not having that detective line in there, I'm pretty sure, within his department. Radio repairs stayed the same, uniforms stayed the same at 4,500. Administration, part-time,
It's a fire department.
so down,
Yeah.
okay, so his total budget went from 485 to 497, and you guys were talking about making that line 20,000, which would take 28,000 off of his line.
Right, but that would mean moving, because I think you're gonna be able to adjust wages, but it's the retirement system and the other benefits
Yeah.
that you could figure out what would be moved to your,
Yeah,
your line.
So what you could do is you could increase your line and then just put his line in there for the fees that come out of his department.
Correct,
So we'd be taking some out of that line, putting them back into Lane's.
exactly, and that would give you a number at least that
Yeah.
you can go by.
yeah, I just wanna double check, cause 6 months, that may not even be enough to cover 6 months, so.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. It adds up fast when you
Yeah.
add all.
Well, you know, break it up, but you know,
Oh, I will, I'll have,
'cause-
I'll,
there should be some savings there, he was using that just as a placeholder, knowing that he had more than enough there, and,
yeah,
I can't see keeping a detective
But
spot.
I don't think he
there.
was including her side of the numbers in that placeholder,
no,
so,
he was not.
you know, it looks like you can save money, but if we actually just put it over to her department, it's probably
Uh,
minimal
Same thing.
savings, you know?
I'll
The other
figure
thing
that
is, the gasoline line, he only spent 65% of his line. You wanna drop that a couple thousand too, that'd give a little more flexibility,
out. Well, if we have another car, it's gonna be,
hopefully give better mileage. I was gonna say drop it down to 10 grand, it's still 1,500 above what he's,
Why don't you do like you thought originally, maybe take 2 grand off it and make it 11?
I'm conference, that's good. Lean, did you hear that one?
yeah, 11 on
Yep.
gas.
Because we are incurring some more expenses on the personnel side, which we didn't anticipate if we go to 6-month hire.
So that would be at 495 down the bottom to start with right now. 508. Okay, are we okay to move on to fire department?
Yes.
Okay, fire department is administrative part-time is at 36, he's staying at 36. And again, his actual this year was much lower, but we adjusted the numbers on those line items, so they're gonna be. Administrative fire chief was 3682, he's going to 3680. Forest firefighting 1500 and 1500, training fire department was 5500 and 5500. He did only use 2100 on training so far, but
COVID could have been a preventer on that.
yeah. Mutual aid compact was 27,851, and mutual aid's gone up a little bit, which he described when he came in, to 31.
There's no choice on that.
597. So gasoline for the fire department was budgeted last year at 850, he dropped it down to 750, he spent 500. Diesel fuel was 2,000, he spent 760, he dropped it down to 1,500. Office supplies stayed at 400, fire station supplies stayed at 500. Telephone for the fire department, he brought it up to 1,500, cause the actual came in at 1,778. Mobile phones for the fire department, he kept it at 1,800, even though they spent 1,997 this year, so I think he's watching his budget well there. Department equipment for the maintenance, he has at 10,000, it stayed at 10,000. The dues, he has for 500, they stayed at 500. Radio repairs at 750, he spent 937, but he kept his budget at 750. The fire pagers were 2,000, he spent just slightly more than that, and he kept it at 2,000. The fees and services were at 3,600, he dropped it down to 3,500, he only spent 1,000 there. Protection equipment was 10,000, he spent 12,000, he kept the budget at 10. Subscriptions for the fire department was at 250, he's keeping it at 250. Fire prevention was 1,200, he's keeping it at 12. Hydrant repairs, he's got 750 in there, he adjusted it up to 1,000. Ambulance expenses, he's got it at 3,500, he kept it at 35. And paramedic intercepts, he's got 2,200, he kept it at 2,200. Total budget looks like it went up a little over $3,000. Okay,
I think it's fantastic.
no, that's as good as you can get. He does have a warrant article on there to fix a tanker that's leaking. we're gonna go over the warrant articles at another time, but Lean did adjust that up slightly this week because of the pricing he's gotten in on the beds.
You also got the capital improvement one too.
Yeah. Okay, building department. The secretary and building inspections, went up slightly with the 1% increase. The overtime stayed the same, 2,000, they spent 1,400 of it. Building inspector went up just with the 1% increase. And, supplies stayed the same at 3,000, the training stayed the same at 400, and the dues stayed the same at 300. So their budget went up, it looks like a few $1,000s. Pretty flat, pretty much stayed with just the 1% increases there, I don't see any changes. Highway department, the telephone was budgeted 1,000, they spent 1,200, he moved it to 1,100. Supplies were at 5,000, he spent 4,200, he left that at 5,000. Administration highway full-time, it was at 50,000, they moved the 1% up to 51,894.
That's again with an extra pay period, so
Yeah,
we'll
additional.
remind them next year that it may look like they're getting a little less, but it's because it's 52 weeks.
Okay, highway department part-time, this year was budgeted 39. They actually expended 27, he brought it down to 35. Full-time overtime was at 8,200. They spent 5 of it, he made it 8,500. Highway paving and construction was at 252 last year. They spent 281, he rounded it up to 260 in this budget.
Can I just say that we have encumbered some of that money for paving,
Okay.
okay?
Roadside mowing, was at 8,000 budgeted last year, they spent 7,800. And, he's got 8,000 in there, scheduled for next year. The uniforms are at 1,300, he spent 1,572, he moved it up to 1,500. Mobile phones were at 400, he spent 230, he budgeted 300 this year. Gasoline was 500. They only spent a few dollars, $20 in gas, they moved it down to 100. Diesel fuel, they had it budgeted at 12,000, he spent 4,900. Again, they budgeted 12,000. There is a fairly decent discrepancy there. So I'm just gonna make a note, we'll finish his budget off. Equipment maintenance for the highway was at 7,500, they spent 15,000, he kept that line at 7,500. Equipment rental for the
Can I
highway,
just say, and I can double check it, but it's possible that
those lines got reversed,
someone posted something to the wrong line,
okay.
I'm not sure.
So you're gonna check those 2 lines?
Yep,
Okay,
If they're reversed, it don't make sense with it.
yep.
almost, yeah. And, equipment rental on the highway was 6,000, they used 5,500 of it, he kept the budget at 6. Patching, they have 1,500 budgeted for both years. Culverts and guardrails, he had 3,500, he knocked it down to $1. And the reason why he's keeping the line item, but he's using it out of his other lines.
Placeholder.
Blasting for the highway is 3,500, he kept it at 3,500 for roadside blasting. Gravel for the highway, he kept it $1 just to keep the placeholder. Road striping, he has 9,000, they spent 8. Next year he has 9,000 budgeted. Tree cutting on the side of the highway, they have 8,000. They used it out of their own man hours, so there's nothing out of that line item, but he's keeping that 8,000 in his budget. Gravel crushing, there's nothing in that line. Winter contractors, he has at 85,000, they spent slightly more than that last year, he kept it at 85,000. Winter road salt, he has at 50,000, they spent 46, he kept it at 50. Winter sand, he has 20,000, they spent 14,7, and they kept it at 20. Total highway department only went up a couple $1,000. pretty minimal, and we're gonna check out those few lines, and Lean will get back to us on those. I'll write down maybe reversed. Okay. Here's a big one, waste disposal. Okay, full-time went from 50,561 to 53,548 with the additional week, as Lean has said before, and the 1%. The part-time went from 91 to 88. They used 75 of it last year, so they dropped that down a little bit in their budget. Full-time overtime, they keep $1,000 in there. They used 3,000 last year, a lot of that was due to COVID and adjustments that had to be made. The training on the solid waste was at 800, they kept it at 800. Contractor services were 2,400, they kept it at 24. The supplies were at 2,000, they moved it to 3,500 because they spent 2,400. Equipment maintenance was 12,500. They spent a lot this year that they already had scheduled to spend on the new truck and other equipment that they purchased for there, but they kept it at 12,500 for this year's budget.
That actually reflects the encumbrance of the 2 trailers that you guys authorized them to buy.
Oh, okay,
So those have been paid for, there's just over $9,000.
alright. Department equipment's $1,000, you kept it at 1,000. Telephone was 1,520, they kept it at 1,520, it came in slightly under. Uniforms were 4,883, he's keeping that line at 4,883, he's had some trouble with his vendors this year.
Too much starch.
Yep. Mobile phone is 500, he kept it at 500, fuel cost 5,600, he kept it at 56. They spent 3,983 of that. Lab testing was 225, he kept it at 225. And the MSW was at 71,341, they moved it up to 76,460 with the new fee schedule he has. And the CD removal was at 13,638, and he moved it to 14,657. And he's proposed all of those increases to us during his budget time, so I don't have any issues with that budget.
There's 2 more in his
Hazardous
department below
waste.
the headers.
Oh, yeah. Hazardous waste was at 17,500, he kept it at 17,500. And NRRA dues was 200, he moved it to 196, cause that's its actual cost. So it went from 277, 214 to 284, 440. Most of those increased costs were pretty fixed.
That's a $7,226 increase.
Yeah, but he gave us some good explanation on those, I don't see anywhere where we can really adjust anything there.
Fuel costs were really reduced, the reason?
What's that?
Was it just because fuel prices were down for fuel
Oh,
costs?
we have really had some low, rack plus, or cost plus rack
Okay.
prices, and it's starting to creep up now.
It is, I see
Yeah.
it.
Diesel and gas, yeah.
And hazardous waste, do you think hazardous waste will be going up this year? Or
He
about-
said that this hazardous waste was exceptional. He said for
Yes.
some reason, are you
We-
there? Oh, he's
We
there.
got a good deal.
Yeah,
I was hoping that they're trying to lock this contractor in on a contract.
Okay,
They haven't been able to do it, and if they can't do it, the price will jump up considerable.
so you're
And the other,
conservative,
what's that?
you're being
Yes.
conservative.
The other thing is that, I actually have material from last year that I called the vendors and they're just so busy they couldn't get out here to pick up,
Okay.
that are gonna come into this year, but it's last year's material.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
I definitely wanna revisit that line for the following budget year, cause if we can get them locked into a contract, we should be able to drop that.
Great.
Okay. Alright, going on to the next section is welfare. Salvation Army was at 1,500, we're keeping it at 1,500. Community Action Program was 2,350, they spent 2,350, we're keeping it at 2,350. Welfare overseer was $6,049.
I'm gonna check that number again, cause that's flat and that shouldn't be, that should have a 1% increase.
She spent $6,021, so we should be moving that up.
I think it should be a little bit more,
Add
but
the
I may have
1%.
rounded up, because there's a deputy and, both the welfare, director.
Direct welfare assistance was at 5,000, and she kept it at 5,000. The budget was completely flat. It should show a modest increase, or adjust that $5,000 line, Lean, when you add in for the welfare, if you increase that line item for her.
Admin overseer welfare? you
No,
mean?
no, you're talking about the,
Yeah, if you increase the admin overseer of welfare,
It should go up slightly.
yeah, if you bring that up slightly, drop the 5,000 down a little bit to keep her budget flat if you want
Okay,
to,
yep,
okay?
yep,
She proposed a flat budget, and that's the way to do it.
okay, gotcha.
Did you raise your hand, Woody, did you have a question? No, you're okay. All right, next one is Parks and Rec. On Christmas, we had 100. They spent 400 this year to put the additional lighting up here, which is gonna be out till the end of the month. And so they left it at 100. Easter was at 100, and they kept it 100, and excursions were at 200, and they left it at 200. And Parks and Rec was at 400 and was left at 400.
Well, that's actually the total. So we have no recreation committee other than the garden club has volunteered for a lot of our events. I kind of left the money exactly where it was, so there's a flat budget of $400 for that recreation.
And do we wanna keep 200 in excursions, or do
no.
we wanna move it to the others?
I'd probably just absorb it.
I don't mind leaving the line item at 400, Mike, I just didn't know if you wanted to put it into Christmas or Easter. Probably Easter is the line they use the most at.
Well, what they can be authorized to do is bottom line in 400 if they use it on one event or
Right.
a holiday, then they'll just overspend it and have no money in the other line.
Okay,
Okay, no change.
Well, you know, the garden club's a separate entity, it's not a town function. Although they come to us with some of the things
to do,
that the Parks and Rec used to do, so I understand that. So it's probably a good idea to not have an amount other than having that $400 in a reserve for parks and for recreation. We'll take the parks out of it and say recreation, so that if someone comes to us with something they wanna do
Okay,
that benefits the town,
I can change the
and we
name.
wanna invest that, then we can, and we don't feel like we're tied to doing that just because they're coming to us. Cause sometimes they're raising additional monies, some of these
Oh, yeah,
entities,
yeah.
and they don't even need the money they're asking us for, but it's just a benefit for them to
Right.
put into their thing. So, I mean, I'd just like to have a number there
so
that we
you
can
think
use.
about relabeling instead of labeling as Christmas, Easter excursions?
Just recreation.
Just leave it recreation and have a
Can she
number
do
of
that for the
400.
accounting
I'll
department?
delete and merge them, is that what you wanted to do?
Right,
And just
Yeah.
call it recreation,
correct.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Are you good with that?
Yeah, well, yeah, right, because I was gonna reiterate what Bob said, because you're treating the garden club like it's a committee for the town, and it's not.
Well, it wasn't labeled as garden club here.
Well, no, but that's
It
how
was
you're
Christmas
explaining
and
it, that's how
Easter.
you're explaining it, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Cause you may have the PTO coming to us being
Right.
short on funds, saying, you know, we need $100 to complete this
Halloween.
gathering for the kids, or
Yeah,
whatever,
Halloween,
whatever it is, you know, and so at least we can look at it that way, you know, I mean,
In that time, taking the religion out of it too, that time, which
Yeah.
is important, you have generic.
And who's gonna be in charge of excursions? You know, and a separate entity isn't part of the town government, so, you know.
Really, it avoids more questions at a public hearing and when you present it,
Okay,
keep it simple.
going back to the next one now, we're past Parks and Recs. Old Home Day. They've got Old Home Day listed as 5,700, it stayed flat at 5,700. It was canceled this year. Fireworks display is at 0, and Memorial Day was at 300, they spent 60, keeping that line at 300.
Can we eliminate the fireworks display? We haven't had one in a while, and I think the problem is we have no place in town we can really do it safely.
I can delete the line, I just haven't had the heart to do it, but if you want me to, just
What do you
leave
think?
it.
I like to leave it there too, cause I'm hoping someday we have a spot we can do them again, cause
Okay.
I will tell you, for a small town, our fireworks were substantial,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
they
it was
were.
nice to come and see.
Do you wanna put $1 there as a placeholder?
Yeah.
You know, why don't you stick $1 in it, just so we have a placeholder. I would like to see him come back to town someday, I'm not sure when or where and how, but
The $1 I wanna buy Dave one sparkler.
Yeah, but just remember, you have a volunteer that sets those. You might not have that volunteer anymore, and it's very expensive to have someone to do that.
Yeah,
for fireworks, you mean?
Yeah, you can't,
To be
it's not just anybody that can do that.
you have to be licensed.
I know.
You have to be licensed, yeah.
That's why we're not totally eliminating it, we're just keeping the flexibility for the
Well,
future.
believe it or not, they did not cost the town a huge amount of money for the fireworks that we had, it was
Yeah, we've gotten
amazingly
some
cheap.
good amount of,
But you had a volunteer that did the fireworks.
Yeah,
You didn't pay, we didn't pay him, you know, so that's a big, that's a pretty expensive
well, I
piece
think
of-
our fire department volunteered their time, but I think the person that lit them actually was a person, right?
one of our firefighters.
Yep,
Yeah,
it was licensed,
it's JR.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
did he drop his license?
No, but he may not be a
Oh, we're gonna hold him to the fire,
able.
that's the kind of town we are.
You're gonna force him, you're gonna force him to do it, right?
Like, you're gonna get away from the hearse garage, no, no.
Gotta get away from that.
Okay,
And then the last one is the library.
library, and, we did review that just last week, and that's on a separate entity, and we don't really have much control over their budget. It's like the school, so. That went from 96,228 to 109,309. So, without making the adjustments that we looked at tonight, the budget to date, last year was 26,506, comma 777. And, the budget this year is 27,16, comma 561, so. 2,716,000.
So that is a
$561.
59,784 increase.
Yeah,
With the little things we had on tonight, probably around 60,000.
which is about 2% of our total budget, so. We're gonna look at a few things, cause we adjusted a few things lower, and we
You
added
know,
a couple.
I was looking at the police part of it, I'm looking at around, it's a little bit less than 23,000 for the 6 months for that officer.
Yeah,
So, and of course, we pick up that share of social security, I think that goes under administration, right?
yes, it does,
Along with the retirement,
and that went up to
so I bet you'll be around,
39%, I think it
I
was.
bet you'll be around 28,000. So you may be able to cut 20 or 18,000 out
Okay,
of that.
so if I work this number out, adjust the numbers, so next, and then present you with the breakdown,
For the
what you
6
see
months.
for a bottom line will be what you've discussed today.
Right,
So we'll be closer to a final budget.
right. It's just that I can't see leaving all that money in there as a play, you know, he's using that to keep a spot, cause he may use some for his officer,
Yeah.
and I think it's a large amount of money, you know,
So Lean, if you'd like to review your notes and just put a quick highlight, we could, you know, look at it again next week if you want
Yeah,
to,
I
there's
will
only a
have-
few,
I
I
think we
think
can
the
finish it
more-
next
we're
week.
only talking about a few line items here. And then you'll have a hard budget to work with from then on out.
You know, we're taking a little bit off the top, like Bob was talking, we're talking about, it brings it to like 1.9%, which is very reasonable.
Get her under the tube.
Well, I think that's, I think the departments did a really good job as far as,
I think, yeah,
Even level
all the budgets were good. I don't know, I kinda notice a difference in someone's opinion when they're presenting the budget and the other person wanted to keep that amount there, I just,
I'll run those numbers for you.
Okay. So we've done both the department budgets and the administrative budget, Lean.
Yep.
At this point.
Yeah, everything is done, I'll tweak it, get a clean copy and
I didn't
put
do
it in the warrant.
I didn't do a public comment at the beginning, does anybody have anything from
Yeah,
the
you
public?
did do it.
I did?
Yep.
I thought I skipped it.
You
I didn't
did.
check it off.
Still have nothing.
All right, mailbox. Okay,
Got a lot of mail this week.
we did.
They were in order.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't work out. There's no paperwork on the tanker body, right?
No, it's part of the summarized, warrant articles that
Okay.
include the fire chief's proposal and the 3 of the new, cemetery
Cemeteries.
ones that you spoke about earlier, and then I did get the numbers for the milfoil.
So we can talk about warrants next week then?
Absolutely, I'll put this operating budget as our article, I think it's gonna be number 4 or number 3, because the planning
First
and
one.
zoning have 3 zoning amendments.
Right.
2 or 3 zoning amendments. So I'll put it, it'll be close to final.
And, just to make a note, the note I made earlier, it's in here. The new tanker body went up to 120 instead of 100 that, he was requesting.
Yeah.
Okay. The milfoil grant is in there. And the perpetual care revenues total is 4122, rounded off, to
So,
offset the taxes.
so basically, because we have a grant amount from, Department of, DES, Department of, what is that, Environmental Services, we have to list that as a revenue. So I will include the 2540, and then Dawn showed you a request to, expend from the perpetual care monies to maintain those perpetual care, and that's in about, it was about $1,400, so I will be increasing the bottom line revenue that we projected last week to $4,122 more, so you'll see an increase on that. I'll have all these items cleaned up and ready for that.
I'm just putting my stuff in order here.
Mhm.
And the topic's lost, okay, I think we're good. Okay. We got a letter in this week addressed to the selectmen, each one of us got a copy of it. It was for a notification of a discontinuance of a old section of Route 13 from the law office, and, so it's reading for the selectmen to go over and look at this. It looks like it's gonna be a, ongoing situation with a section of road that was discontinued and noting where it's at.
Well, it wasn't, that section wasn't discontinued. The other sections of 13 were discontinued.
Oh,
That
I
was
said, I replace this as non-discontinued portion, okay.
And that was done at a town meeting. So evidently, the old parts of 13 were reverted back to the town. And what they did is they discontinued some of that, of the old 13, and allowed the property owners to own each towards the middle of the road. And then the continued piece, which is the one that they're contesting here, was still traversable by anyone in town, actually. Anyone who wants to go down that road, because it wasn't discontinued. And this person is using that to store their trucks, trailers, or whatever. So from what I'm reading, that's what it's about, and they've had issues of telling them to keep that clear so they can go by, but he's always got something parked in the way, or whatever, so they're looking for some kind of relief from the select board, cause they can't work it out neighbor to neighbor.
Okay. So, we'll have to do some reading on that and decide, what we wanna do in that situation with that road.
Is that your copy or is that Mike's copy?
Mike's copy.
Okay.
I have to give you this back, Mike, cause I do have a copy, I picked up this one.
So we'll table this so that you can read that
Absolutely.
thoroughly, and then maybe,
Yeah, cause it's kinda interesting. It's, I guess somebody thinks they own that section and it's navigable to anybody
Right.
in town.
Which isn't the first one in town we've had, I guess, right?
Well, I think, you know, it's funny, I was looking at, it, we're talking about 50 feet, where are they gonna go for the 50 feet, navigable in town? It's almost, who's going down there to traverse in front of this house?
Right,
Well, it all depends who owns property off of that
Oh, going
area.
further down, right,
yeah, if you own property further down, then that's your access point.
right, but if it stops here, according to it's interesting, we'll talk next week on it, I think we get a look at it.
Yeah, I think if you look at it, you'll find that, you know, there's probably a reason why that was left open. It was one of, I think, 3 different parcels that they
Sections.
kept open.
And then again, we've gotta make sure the information we're reading is all, you know,
It's
correct.
one-sided too.
Yeah, so,
Well, they got a copy of the warrant that it was under, that was presented at the town meeting.
okay. All right. We also have in here a letter from, NHMBB, the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank, showing the rates for this coming year. And they also put in there that they are figuring about 2% to be conservative for budgeting purposes. This has more right now to do with the school because they have a bond going on, but not so much for us now.
Well,
Right.
Could be the role.
Although I was gonna say, Jeff came to us
Right,
yeah,
thinking about going with a bond, and if you look at the rates in there, the money's so cheap
right,
that it makes sense to borrow now than to wait till,
yeah.
you know, the interest rates go up again.
Would you
I
be,
think they're all less
the
than
question is, would you be
1%.
willing to support a bond for the highway department?
I didn't think that this year, when Jeff was in here, that we were talking about this year. But I think at some point I possibly would be.
If you look at the rates, cause the money's,
But I would wanna make sure that it's not a generic flat amount and we have a spelled out proposal of what we're gonna do for the voters. In other words, I wouldn't want it to switch, where you lay out and you say, I'm gonna do this road, and next thing you know, the money is being spent on this road. And so we need
well,
a
and the
good
other,
sized package proposal from,
plan.
and the other thing is I'd like to see it spent as soon as possible rather than spreading it out for 5 years.
Right. The one thing I asked Jeff, as you recall, can he, if he did a bond, could he execute on it this year?
right,
And that's key, if you get the money, you gotta execute on it this year.
yeah.
yeah, that has to go out to bid, everything.
But you know, so for this year, I don't think it's a wise thing to do, because I think that a plan needs to be put in place by the road agent, brought to the townspeople. And I wanna make sure that we look at through roads and not dead-end roads so much, because the through roads are obviously traveled a lot more.
Well, how
And he
much,
may have that, you know, cause he had briefly talked about it, and he may have that information where he could offer us a choice, you know?
could Lean talk to him and see if he would be willing to come in and talk about presenting the plan to us first?
I would think, but not for this year's budget.
Not for this year?
No, it's too close. And I don't think it's a year we wanna get into a bond discussion at the town meeting this year myself, but
Understood. But
I would think this is,
the only,
give him a year to propose this plan to us and come next year, and when we go in front of a full, amount of voters that wanna come in, and we can propose this plan, because this is a new plan, and I think we had determined this year not to do any type of new thing like this, where a lot of people are gonna wanna come and talk about it.
I'd say we just, if we just pave Leo's road, we'd be happy.
They don't-
Take care
And
of
tilt
my,
it.
take care of my
right?
driveway. I shoveled it out again.
Dave, you have a point, the only con to that, you know, pros and cons, I agree with you, almost 100% one side, but I'm gonna, 99%, I'm gonna take the 1% because money's cheap.
Right.
And the thing is, it's nice to strike when money's cheap.
But I think bond money typically is cheap, it was fairly cheap for the school, and I think next year, believe it or not, with the way this economy is gonna go, I think that bond money will be cheap again next year. I wanna make sure that when we develop the program to go to the voters and we speak to them, we have a clear message on where to go. And I think that plan needs a few months to develop. It's a little too quick this year. So that's my thought on it, unless you guys talk me into.
No, the thing is, I think it'd be worthwhile just alert Jeff that the thing is, if he could come up with a comprehensive plan and a quick mold to let us look at it and either support him or not support him, that'd be worthwhile discussion. Only because money, I agree with Bob, money is very inexpensive. Is it gonna get lower than this? I don't think so.
I don't think it'll get lower, but those bonds will not go up that much either.
They do,
Don't move that much.
they may not next year, but yeah.
Right. So I would like to have, do the background so that we're looking at a good plan to go to the voters with, cause I think that
No,
that needs a good discussion in front of the voters, and I don't think we're gonna have the,
Yeah, you're not gonna have the turnout, I don't think, to be able.
no. So I'd like to do it with a bigger turnout and. Okay, but that is good news to see that those bond rates are down.
So ask them to come up with a background and a plan and be prepared to maybe present it at next year's.
Yeah. Work on it this coming year and we'll,
I think the selectmen, I'm gonna speak for all, I think we all would like to support him on this, but it's gotta be done as in a comprehensive way.
we have to be able to show the voters that it's gonna cost them no more than the way we're doing it now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And they're gonna get more done in a quicker period of
Yeah.
time. Okay, I have a letter from the Society of Protection of New Hampshire Forests requesting a timeline from the town for the closing and reclamation of the town forest gravel pit. Some work has been done there, but they are using it as a storage, facility for some ground up, pavement. And in reading through this and all the pages that Lean had sent us on it and the related documents, it looks like there was some previous, things done by a board of selectmen. And then also, there was some stuff done by the town forest committee, of which the road agent is on as well, so I would like for them to get back to us with their recommendations of how to go forward, and then the select board can make a decision on if that's how we would like to answer this letter back, so we're all on the same page.
So Jeff Crosby's the chairman, I'll invite him in to talk to you about it.
Yeah, and I'd like to sit down, cause I'd like to review also, the only thing I couldn't see in here was the,
I was gonna, the tone of the letter was almost threatening, like, if you don't comply, we're gonna do something with it.
well, I think it's because, they had been told that it was gonna be brought into,
Mhm.
you know,
Compliance, but it's not.
compliance, and it hasn't, so I think they're just pushing the boundaries and they wanna get it taken care of. So, the other thing I didn't see in here was the original selectmen's decision on that.
I do have a folder, I did scan that to the entire town forest committee,
Yeah.
right? And Woody, you got yours?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd just like to get the feeling on the first group of selectmen that looked at it, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's in there, so.
You know, so which way they were leaning.
Yeah, just to see what how they worded it and what they're. Okay, so that takes care of that. There's a letter in here that we got in reference to COVID-19 and the public health amendments for travel quarantines. And, I didn't read this through completely enough yet to make a decision of whether we wanna amend our town policy or not. So I'd recommend we all finish taking a look through this and then,
Let me send it to you electronically?
Yes.
if you could, and then, you know, we obviously don't wanna modify, I don't think, the travel policy
No, but
is
there
complete
was
as this
just,
is.
there's a couple of highlighted
Right,
sections in that.
Yeah.
yeah. So I think if we read through that and see, maybe we just change a few paragraphs or sentences maybe to make sure that we're up to date with this and following the, state guidelines on that, I think that would be good.
All right, so I'll table that and send it to you electronically.
We got an email from Rainey Olet, the town moderator, in reference to putting out a notice of how we're gonna have our town meetings and school meetings conducted. I think Mike responded and I responded, we thought it was a good idea. I also told him I'd like to make sure we post it on the town website.
Yeah, I did ask him, I said I'd seen the consensus to ask him to put it together.
Yeah,
I think we need to get it up there sooner than later.
so, I think we had consensus on Bob, does, we'll let him put
Yeah,
the letter together, and then we'll get it out to
exactly.
the public, so what,
Advance notice really helped at the general election last year,
yeah, and if anybody's watching this, we're gonna have a standard town meeting
with social distancing.
with social distancing, and if we run over 100 people with the social distancing, it's gonna be allowed within the, building down there, the gymnasium will go into overflow in the classrooms, which will also have monitors available and microphones.
Asking,
Yeah, masks will be required. So he's gonna put that letter together, hopefully. We've gotta sign a card here and a letter for Century Roofing in reference to, putting a new roof in the town Hearst building.
aluminum, as I recall.
Yep, and it is, it has been completed, I drove by it the other day, it looked great.
I think there's a card and a letter there, right?
Yeah, I've got the card addressed to his personal home address, and then the full letter, business.
I'm gonna sign that, and we'll give it to Bob. This was enlightening to me, we got an email from Clem Madden. And Dr., I'm gonna try and pronounce his name, Cassanda.
Yep.
And, it was in reference to the Dunbarton school budget, where their increases were, the percentages of their increases, the number of students that changed over, and then also gave an overview of the Bow budget, the Bow schools. And, I thought that this letter was very good for us to see as selectmen, because when people come to us and wonder why different parts of our school system or budgets go up, whether it's ours or theirs, we've got a little bit better breakdown here, we can say, for certain the different reasons why. And, Clem sent that to us just so that we'd have this ability to speak with the voters direct and not be blindsided. And I think the communication between the school and the town is getting better every year, and I appreciate that.
I think it would be helpful if I put that on our website.
Right,
if you
but,
don't
could
object
you do me a favor, check with them first, just in case they have it out there in the public already?
I could, for all those, COVID, Cassandra responses or
Yeah.
letters like this, they've asked me to put them on, the website, so, I mean, that's basically outlining their proposed budget before their public hearing.
Right. But I think Clem has taken over for Deb as far as the chair goes there, and I think Deb was starting to, Claudia was responding good with communication between the school and the town, and Clem is doing the same thing. I think it's appreciated.
Dave?
Yep.
I like the idea that she said she'd post that on the town website though,
Okay.
because I don't follow the school website much at all.
Yep.
So at least I do follow the towns. And there's gonna be a lot of people like me that do that, you know?
Right.
It's increased transparency, that's
Yeah.
all good.
It's just an overview, just double check with Clem in case something shouldn't be to the public, but I don't see anything in
Yeah,
there.
no, I think that's a public, because it goes to all the parents too. They're very, I don't know if I, highlighted the link, but there is a link that shows that it goes to all parents.
Yeah, it's SAU community, so I don't see where it has any
Yeah.
problem going to it.
Yeah,
Okay. I didn't look at the link there earlier. Okay, the next thing up, we'll probably speak a little bit more about this in non-public, but we did get the claim back on the, we're gonna fix the address here. Kimball Pond Road project there, 41 Kimball Pond Road, they've listed as 47. But they've given us a proposed estimate of the repairs to that building, so we can start discussing it as a board and make a proper decision for the town on how quickly we go forward, or whether we need to have an independent contractor look at it to make sure this amount of money is correct for the town, so I believe we'll finish up that discussion, because it will have some dollar values associated to it in non-public tonight. And, So that should be it. I'm gonna keep that one out so we can discuss it here further. Okay, that being said, that takes care of the mailbox items. I'm gonna open up for public comment one more time. Nothing, Woody, have anything further? Okay, town administrator? Okay, I'm gonna bring it back to the board, Bob.
Yeah, well, just a couple of things. One is I'd like to commend all the department heads for giving us a pretty close to full service budget with not minimal increases,
Yeah.
you know? So that helps us out a lot. And the other thing is, you know, there's entities out there that wanna help and do things for the residents in town or the children, whatever, and so, like, the garden club is one of them that's always stepping forward. And while I thank them, just hope they understand that we need to have some kind of control over what we do, and, you know, it could be anyone that comes to us to do something, so again, their appreciation, you know. and-
Yeah,
Can I just speak? I do
I
have
just
something.
gave you your turn.
I know.
Go ahead.
We were, surprised when we had someone approach call the office and say that they were from the Salvation Army, and they had a large, lot of bags of brand-new clothing that they were distributing to the different, local towns that are part of our, Salvation Army team. And they've got a lot of mittens, gloves, hats, jackets that the welfare and, will be trying to distribute, and she's already reached out to the school, because they oftentimes, the kids get to school, they don't have mittens, and they have to send them outside anyway, so it's gonna be they're already pleased to hear that they're looking forward to those pieces of clothing going that way, so,
Okay,
a nice gift.
Michael?
Just want to give kudos to the transfer station, because last week we talked about closing down the one lane. Tuesday morning I went down there, and the first thing I noticed, the lane is closed, the place is spotless, everyone's following, funneling through. And so, we made a decision a week ago, and you implemented it Tuesday morning, and it was running very smoothly. And
What time did you go through?
I go about maybe 10:30, about 30 minutes after it opens on Tuesday.
I guess I follow them with my actions, huh?
Well, the thing is, the place is spotless, everyone had a mask on, everyone was social distancing. You're running a good ship there.
It is nice and clean, and I do like seeing that, Woody. It's a pleasure to go in there and have the town transfer station is basically a dump, and I don't think anybody's got a cleaner one than we do. It looks nice down there.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Years ago, you could get a hamburger there, though.
Yeah.
Really?
I am not kidding.
Food truck.
Okay, is that it, Mike?
That's it for me.
Okay, the only thing I have is, I'd like to know from my fellow selectmen, I'm gonna go through the town meeting minutes as Lean has suggested, and I'm gonna go through a bunch of the point bulletins of the maintenance we've done. If either of you two have anything on the selectmen's report you'd like me to try and fit in a paragraph, if you give me an email or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm gonna make a draft, send it to you guys, and, we'll modify that together and put it as one,
Statement.
Right.
Town
thing from the
report.
selectmen, yeah.
Selectmen's report.
Just so we're not duplicating ourselves, could you give us a rough draft ahead of time?
Sure, yeah.
It might
I don't know how
spark
much
some-
ahead of time, but.
But, well, it might spark something
Yeah.
there with,
And, one page is plenty.
Yeah, so, there are a few things, and, one thing I wanna try and highlight, and I'll work with Lean on, I'm going to go through the dollar figures of that solar system and see if there's anything worth, boasting about, or, just say it's our first full year functional, or.
Yeah, the energy committee's preparing a great report for the.
They are?
Yeah, for the
Okay.
town report. That was part of their mantra.
Okay, great.
And I'll be meeting with them Monday night.
Well,
This
why
coming
don't you
Monday.
give me an update after you meet with them, Mike, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
And we'll decide what kind of little bumper we wanna put in our.
We can just make reference to it, then they said for
Yeah.
further reading, make sure you read the
Sure.
report.
Yeah, good idea, yeah.
Okay, great, I didn't realize they were doing that. So that's all I had for tonight, so now I'd like to make a motion to go into non-public per RSA 91-A, Roman numeral 3, no,
Roman numeral-
A3, Roman numeral 2, and and I believe it's paragraph C, correct?